Discover the incredible journey of a poor girl, how she inspired a millionaire CEO choosing her future. Emma Johnson stood at the window of their small apartment, watching the flickering streetlights at dusk. With every light that glimmered, she felt a mixture of hope and despair. At 18, she had dreams bigger than the small Midwestern town of Maplewood, yet she was anchored by her family's financial struggles. Her mother worked late into the night, juggling 3 jobs, no doubt weary but always returning with a smile. Emma's little brother, Jake, depended on her after school, and she filled their evenings with laughter and stories, even while her own dreams felt just out of reach. The scent of pancakes wafted from the diner down the block, evoking memories of carefree childhood mornings. But now, the diner felt like a reminder of what they couldn't afford. Emma craved change. She involved herself in the community center, pouring her energy into mentorship programs, hoping to inspire kids just like her. Many of her classmates had parents who could pay for college prep courses. But for Emma, the path was steeper, and the odds felt stacked against her. Then the unexpected occurred. Jake Thompson, once the town's golden boy who made it big as a millionaire CEO, returned home. The community buzzed with stories of his success, but Emma felt a spark of intrigue. Their first meeting was at the community center, where Emma's vibrant spirit caught his attention among polished resumes. Their connection felt effortless at first. She didn't just see him as a mentor. She saw a glimpse of what she could become. But there was tension beneath Jake's interest. People whispered about their unlikely connection, skepticism tinged with social prejudices. Emma's heart sank as she could hear the murmurs. What does he know about struggle? Yet, she prepared diligently for their sessions, pouring her dreams and worries into their conversations, her voice shaking yet determined. Just as they began to forge a path, disaster struck. A storm ravaged Maplewood, destroying homes and shattering lives. Emma's heart pounded as she witnessed the town's devastation unfold. As the community banded together to recover, she stepped up as a beacon of hope. With each box of supplies she distributed, she felt stronger, more capable. Jake watched from the sidelines, his corporate facade slowly crumbling as he witnessed Emma rally her friends, her peers. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emma became a leader, a symbol of resilience, her eyes glistening with determination. As Jake watched her lift the spirits of so many, he felt something shift within him. The proud millionaire began to question his own life choices amid the wreckage, torn between elitism and the values he once held dear. At that moment, Emma looked at him, hoping he would choose the path that echoed the heart of their community, rather than one that conformed to his previous life. The air felt charged with possibility. Would Jake align himself with the spirit of House Street or stick with the polished principles that once defined him? As the clouds began to part, the question loomed larger than ever. What does it truly mean to succeed? Emma stood amidst the rubble that had once been her town's heart. The storm had flattened homes and dashed dreams, but she felt something stirring within her, an urgency that rippled through the community. She could see the glimmers of hope reflected in the eyes of those around her. As volunteers filtered in from neighboring towns, she felt a sense of purpose rising higher than the debris around. The whispers that had once cast shadows in her mind transformed into a chorus of encouragement. With every box she lifted, every smile she exchanged with the children lining up for supplies, Emma sensed her own dreams starting to weave into the fabric of Maplewood's revival. People began to compare her to the town's past leaders, speaking of her with newfound respect. They no longer saw her as just a girl with dreams. She was their guiding star, reminding them that even in darkness, lights could be rekindled. Jake, meanwhile, felt the pangs of guilt pricking at him. He stood at the edge of the community center, the very place where their journey had begun. He slipped into his old corporate role, dressed in a slick suit, a world apart from Emma's determined spirit. But it felt wrong now. Watching her speak, her voice carrying strength, he had never noticed before he felt the distance between their lives. "I can help with the rebuilding efforts," he blurted out, surprising even himself. Emma turned to him, her eyes shining like they did in the moments laughter filled the air. There was no judgment, just an open invitation. Yet she remained cautious, aware that the weight of his past loomed large. "Are you sure?" Emma asked, her voice steady yet soft, as if she were gauging whether he would truly commit to this new philosophy she was embodying. "We need hearts that are invested, not just hands." "I am invested," he insisted, taking a step forward, the commitment in his voice louder than the crashing waves of doubt. "Show me how I can help." Slowly, they began to rebuild together. At first, Jake felt like a fish out of water. He knew how to lead board meetings and negotiate deals, but this was gritty and raw. They worked side by side, lifting beams, clearing debris, and organizing food drives. The work was hard, visceral, but together they felt alive. Emma's laughter rang out, brightening the atmosphere, ensuring that even as they labored in the muck, joy remained. Through the dust and sweat, they bonded. They shared lunches in the midst of chaos, discussing dreams and goals. They sketched out blueprints for a community center that would empower the town's youth. Emma found that she admired more than just his wealth or success. She saw his willingness to let go of his past. Still, a lingering tension danced between them as they reached quiet moments, like when they watched the sun set over the wreckage. Unsure what to say, Jake filled the silence with his thoughts. "Do you think the town can really heal?" Emma turned to him, anchoring him with her gaze. "It will take time, but together we can make it happen." Her hope resonated. The moment stretched, heavy with their unspoken emotions, and for Jake, the realization began to sink in. This was more than just about the town. It was about who he was becoming. As doomed as it felt, the winds of change were blowing, sweeping away the remnants of the life he thought he wanted. But then, something shattered the fragile peace. A familiar face emerged from the shadows, his past looming larger than the destruction surrounding them. Someone from his old life, ready to pull him back. The choice he faced felt monumental. Would he embrace the new life he'd found, or retreat to the world of polished suits and corporate raised eyebrows? That single, heavy breath filled the air with uncertainty. Emma's heart raced as she watched him turn toward the figure emerging, a face that could change everything. Would Jake step forward into the light of possibility, or retreat back to darkness? The future hinged on this moment, and for both of them, it was a question that would define their paths forever. Jake's heart raced. The face before him, sharp and calculating, cut through the warmth of sunlight that bathed the ruins. It was Marcus, his former boss, the one who had insisted on ambition above all else. The kind of man who saw people as pawns on a chessboard. "Jake," he said, voice smooth like melted butter. "I thought I'd find you here." Emma shifted beside him, sensing his anxiety. The air felt thick as they waited for Jake's response. She could see the internal battle raging inside him. Would he turn back to a life defined by profit margins and boardroom battles? Or would he continue forging a new identity with the community he had once abandoned? "Why are you here, Marcus?" Jake asked, crossing his arms, a protective gesture Emma recognized. "A little bird told me about this rebuilding effort you are so invested in," Marcus replied, a knowing smile plastered on his face. "I wanted to see if it was true, and I can't help but think there are better opportunities waiting for you. Jake, you've got potential to climb back up. Why waste it here?" "Because I want to make a difference," Jake shot back, an edge creeping into his tone. "This is my home, and these people are worth it." For a moment, Marcus's eyes flickered with surprise. Then he laughed softly, dismissively. "Home? This wreck? You can't be serious. You were meant for bigger things, not shoveling rubble." Emma's anger flared at the patronizing tone. She stepped forward, her voice firm. "This wreck is where our community is rebuilding. It's where dreams can flourish again. And it's where Jake is becoming something greater than the man you want him to be." She looked at Jake, searching for strength in his eyes. He met her gaze, the weight of her belief pouring into him. Emma, he hesitated, the words caught in his throat. Just then, the sun dipped lower, casting golden light against the broken structures. It felt like a spotlight on their moment, illuminating the crossroads Jake faced. Take your life back, Marcus urged, desperation creeping in. You don't need to slum it here, Jake. You're better than this. In that moment, Jake's heart pounded like a drum. He felt the pull of his past life versus the raw, authentic connection he had found in Maplewood. Emma stood beside him, a beacon of hope and possibility. Did he really want to go back to what once felt safe? Or could he chase the unfamiliar, the uncomfortable, the exhilarating? Slowly, Jake straightened his posture, a resolve forming in his chest. I don't owe you anything, Marcus. Not anymore. I have to choose my own future. For a heartbeat, time stopped. The tension hung thick around them. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She wanted him to stand firm, to leave the past behind him once and for all. But Marcus wasn't ready to give up. You'll regret this, Jake. One day you might find yourself wishing you'd made the right choice. Regret. Those words stung like a slap. Jake's mind whirled. Was he really ready to turn his back on a world that came with assurances? Or had he already decided? In the silence that followed, Emma's presence felt like an anchor, stirring something deep inside him. Something had shifted. But just as he was about to answer, the roar of a siren pierced through the air, jolting them all from the moment. And as Jake turned away from Marcus, gazing out at the volunteers tirelessly working, he felt the heaviness of choices still to be made pressing down on his chest. Would he follow through? Would he fully embrace the life he wanted? Or would he still be haunted by shadows of the past? A single thought consumed him. Did he have it in him to truly start anew? As Marcus faded away, leaving behind a bitter taste of his old life, Emma turned to Jake, her eyes searching his. But before she could speak, another figure emerged from the darkness, a woman with a knowing look and the undeniable presence of secrets. Their attention shifted again, and the question hung unbidden in the air. Who was she, and how would she change everything once more? Jake's gaze fixed on the woman stepping into the fading light, her silhouette framed against the crumbling backdrop of the buildings. She exuded an air of mystery, her confident stride suggesting she had a purpose in being here. Emma glanced at Jake, her expression a mix of intrigue and concern. Do you know her? Jake asked, his voice low, breaking the silence that lingered between them. Emma shook her head. No, but there's something about her. As the woman drew closer, they could see the sharpness of her features and the fire in her eyes. She looked like someone who had faced storms and come out stronger. Her tattered clothes seemed at odds with the strength in her stance. Emma, Jake, she said, her voice melodic yet firm. I've been looking for you. Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Why? Who are you? I'm Lydia, she said, stepping forward, her intensity unwavering. And I know what you're trying to do here in Maplewood. Emma's curiosity spiked. How do you know about us? I grew up in a place like this, Lydia replied, her gaze unwavering. I left, but it's never really left me. I've come back to help. Jake could sense a connection, an unbreakable bond forged by shared struggles. He felt drawn to her words. Help? What do you mean? Lydia scanned the rubble around them, her expression growing solemn. I've been gathering a group of people who know what it's like to rebuild from nothing. We can show you how to turn this place into something beautiful. Emma stepped a little closer to Jake, her excitement evident. This could be what we need, Jake. A real plan. Marcus's dismissive laughter echoed in Jake's mind. He looked back at the ruins, the worn faces of the community members still working, tirelessly caring about their shared future. Was this the lifeline they needed? What kind of plan? Jake asked, a cautious hope making its way into his voice. Lydia smiled, a glimmer of encouragement in her eyes. We can bring resources, people willing to invest, and ideas that have worked in other places. Big changes take a community, and I can help guide that. Jake's mind raced. The weight of the decision felt like a mountain on his shoulders. but the thought of helping Maplewood rise again fueled his determination. He glanced at Emma, whose face reflected a mix of hope and expectation. "Do you think we can really do it?" he asked, turning back to Lydia, his heart pounding. "Can we really bring this place back to life?" "Absolutely," Lydia replied, the conviction in her voice unwavering. "It's not just about the buildings. It's about the people, the relationships, the dreams. Together, we can show the world what this place can become." Jake sucked in a sharp breath. Doubts lingered in the back of his mind, but the opportunity felt significant. Something inside him clicked. "Then let us do it. Let us show them." Emma's eyes lit up, and a smile broke across her face, one that sent warmth flooding through Jake's chest. But just as they began to envision the future, the abrupt sound of a heavy truck rumbling down the dirt road interrupted them. Jake's heart sank as he recognized the emblem on the side, his father's company, rolling into Maplewood with intentions Jake feared. Lydia's gaze sharpened as she caught sight of the truck. "Looks like they're not done yet. You might need to prepare for a challenge, Jake." Jake's heart raced again. He had faced Marcus, but what would it mean to confront his past again? With the warmth of hopeful possibilities swirling in the air, he felt the stakes rise. How deep did his resolve run? Would he truly stand up to what was familiar, or would the chains of his past bind him yet again? With every ounce of courage he could muster, Jake stood tall beside Emma and Lydia, ready to face what came next. But as they all turned towards the approaching vehicle, uncertainty hung in the air like thick fog. What would this confrontation mean for their mission? Will it break us or unite us even stronger? Jake wondered silently. As the rumble of the truck grew louder, the truck rolled in like a storm cloud, heavy and foreboding. Jake's heart raced just watching it approach. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was a reminder of everything he was trying to escape, everything he had been trying to change. "Jake," Emma whispered, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "They're not here for good reasons, are they?" Lydia's eyes narrowed, her instincts kicking into high gear. "We need to be ready. They might think they can just steamroll over everything we've got going here." The truck stopped, dust swirling around as the engine stopped purring. Jake's breath caught in his throat as the driver's side door swung open, and out stepped Marcus, a familiar face. His father's right-hand man, smirking like the cat who got the cream, with his arms crossed over his chest. "Fancy seeing you here, kid," Marcus called, a half-hearted wave fluttering from his fingertips. "I didn't think you'd be dumb enough to come back. Don't you have better things to do?" Jake retorted, wishing he could sound more composed. But the past loomed large, coaxing out old feelings of anger and resentment. Marcus stepped forward, reveling in the tension. "On the contrary, I have big plans for this place. It's a gold mine just waiting to be tapped. And I'm here to help make that happen. By demolishing what's left." Lydia stood tall, her voice steady. "You think you can just waltz in here and take everything?" He chuckled, a cold, heartless sound. "I don't think I know. You're fighting a losing battle. People like me bring progress. You're clinging to memories." Jake stood firm, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on him. Their hopes rested on his shoulders, balancing precariously with his own doubts. "This isn't just about memories, Marcus. It's about community, rebuilding, and giving people a future." Marcus feigned shock, placing a hand over his heart. "That's adorable. But what future do you think they really want? Whatever you're selling, it's going to be hard to convince them." Around them, a few community members emerged from the shadows, curious about the commotion. As they caught sight of Marcus, murmurs rippled through the small crowd. Jake could see their faces tense, uncertainty creeping in. He had to act fast. "Listen," Jake called out, locking eyes with the people who had fought so hard for this place. "We have a plan. With Lydia's help, we can rebuild this community. We don't need his shortcuts or empty promises." For a moment, he felt something tense and electric in the air. Lydia stepped forward, her presence amplifying Jake's words. "We want to create something sustainable, something that lasts. Not just a quick buck." Marcus's expression darkened. "You'll see, Jake. When the dust settles, I'll be the one standing tall. And you? You'll be just another footnote in Maplewood's trash bin. With that, he turned back towards the truck, barking orders for his crew to start unloading their cargo. Jake clenched his fists, the echo of Marcus's words ringing in his ears. Now we've got a real challenge, Lydia whispered, a hint of resolve in her tone. But it's not just about bricks and mortar. It's about the spirit of this community. We've got to rally them. Emma nodded, the fire igniting in her eyes again. We can't let him do this. If we band together. The rumbling sounds of boxes sliding off the truck drowned out her words. Yet Jake felt inspired by the emerging strength around him. He took a deep breath, his heart throbbing with purpose. Let us make some noise, he said finally, determination fueling his voice. Together. As the crowd began to gather, a buzz of dissent sparked in the air. But deep down, Jake knew they were standing on a tightrope. Would their courage be enough to face the full force of Marcus's plans? The stakes rose higher than they had ever been, and the weight of everything felt crushing. As they prepared to confront this looming challenge, Jake wondered one thing. Would the community's spirit be enough to shield them against the tidal wave of greed, rushing in on all sides, or would they find themselves swept aside in the chaos? As the truck's doors swung open, the shadows it cast seemed to stretch across the small crowd, swallowing their hopes. Jake stood firm, battling a storm inside him. He couldn't afford to back down. He took a step forward, feeling Emma's hand tighten on his arm, grounding him just enough to keep his voice steady. Listen up, he shouted, projecting his words like a lifeline into the growing uncertainty. Marcus thinks he knows what we need, but he's selling you all a bill of goods. This community is worth more than any dime he can throw at it. Whispers flowed through the crowd, confusion and doubt mixed with anger and desperation. Lydia stepped beside him, her strength unwavering. Everyone, we've all fought so hard to keep what we have. Let us stand up for Maplewood. We have dreams, families, stories woven into this land. We can rebuild. Jake saw several of the attendees nodding, some even gripping each other's hands as if to fortify their resolve. He felt a flicker of hope ignite in that moment. Perhaps they could turn the tide, but they needed to act fast. Marcus is banking on you forgetting your roots, Jake continued. But I know each of you loves this place. This isn't just a fight for bricks and mortar. It's a fight for our future. Suddenly, a shout broke through the murmurs. What's in those boxes? It was Tim, a local mechanic, who had always been skeptical of outsiders. Jake turned to see Marcus dismissively tossing a glance in their direction. Just a few supplies to make your lives easier, he called out, smirking. Or do you want to keep toiling away in this rundown town? Enough! Lydia's voice thundered, silencing the crowd's speculation. These people have already fought too hard for too long to let you waltz in here with false promises. The air thickened with tension. Jake felt his heart race as he glanced at Emma, whose eyes burned with determination. They were standing on the edge of something monumental. It wasn't just a fight for Maplewood. It was a fight to reclaim their dignity. Let us show Marcus who we are, he shouted, the pulse of adrenaline propelling him forward. We need to make our voices heard. Not just for ourselves but for everyone who believes in Maplewood. A ragged cheer surged from the crowd. Lydia raised her fist, rallying the others as more voices joined the wave of enthusiasm. Together we can take a stand. Together we can remind them that we aren't just another obstacle. We are a community strong and capable. As Marcus rolled his eyes, Jake saw the spark of doubt flicker in his expression. Just for a moment. Could they actually be making a dent? The thought filled him with exhilaration. With a newfound vigor, Jake led the crowd forward, gathering people to his side in a rallying cry. They began to chant, a simple phrase echoing back and forth, growing louder and stronger, one heartbeat, uniting them all. Maplewood, Maplewood. But even while they rallied, a thread of anxiety wove through Jake's mind. What if it wasn't enough? What if Marcus had something up his sleeve, something they weren't prepared for? As the chants grew louder, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a storm, and all too soon, they'd have to confront the full force of Marcus's plan. As they surged toward the truck, fists raised and voices strong. Jake took a deep breath and steeled himself for the battle ahead. How could they possibly navigate the whirlwind that was about to unfold? As their voices filled the air, a mixture of adrenaline and fear surged through Jake. This moment was everything. Every struggle and sacrifice gathered into this singular act of defiance. The crowd was alive, a wave of energy pushing against the oppressive weight of Marcus and his dealings. But then, with a flick of his wrist, Marcus signaled to his men in the truck. They began tossing boxes into the crowd, the contents bursting open to reveal shiny new goods, paint, tools, and certainly other enticing items for rebuilding. The allure was potent. Jake watched as some faces in the crowd softened and curiosity flickered across their eyes. Was the promise of new tools going to sway them? Such distractions could break their resolve. "Don't be fooled," he shouted, trying to regain their attention. "Those things are nothing but a temporary fix. This is about our home, our livelihoods." A mother stepped forward, a box of brightly colored paint cradled in her arms. "Jake, look at this. We could turn things around." She was caught in the sparkle of possibility, her weary eyes lighting up with hope. "No," Emma called out, stepping beside Jake. "That's exactly what he wants. A shiny distraction to turn us against each other." Her voice was strong, echoing the sentiment that had taken root among them. The crowd shifted uneasily, and Jake felt the tide starting to stir. He needed something more than just a reminder of their struggle. They needed a vision. "Think of the kids," he said, finally finding his footing. "What future are we building for them? Handing them someone else's leftovers? Or fighting together for a Maplewood that thrives?" His words hung for a moment, resonating like the toll of a bell. Faces turned towards each other, and he saw doubt begin to melt away, replaced by determination. "I want my son to grow up in this town," Tim shouted, stepping forward, voice shaking with emotion. "I want him to know where he comes from, not some corporate line. Look around," Lydia encouraged, gesturing to the group. "We're family. These roots go deep. Nothing can break that if we don't let it." Jake joined in with renewed fervor, shouting, "Let us show Marcus our strength. Let us reclaim Maplewood." The call echoed back, the chant swelling once more. "Maplewood, Maplewood." But it wasn't over. They could see the tension grow in Marcus, the smug demeanor faltering as he glanced sideways at his men. Could he feel the shift in the air? Desperation crept into his voice as he tried to regain control. "This isn't the end for you. I can give you opportunities. Just look at what's in these boxes." But his words were swallowed by the chant, a defiant rhythm that underscored their fierce solidarity. Then an unexpected crack of thunder rolled through the sky. It seemed a warning, a sign that the storm was not just metaphorical. Rain began to pour down, drenching them instantly. Jake felt the downpour drenching him to the skin, but he also saw how it ignited a fire in the crowd. Someone began to dance, and laughter erupted amidst the chaos. Caught in the moment, he felt something shift inside himself. It was freedom. They could be knocked down, but they would continue to rise, again and again as the rain fell harder. Their voices grew louder, drowning out Marcus's protests. But beneath the exhilaration of the moment, a heavy thought loomed. Was this rallying cry enough to confront his true power? The question lingered as they forged ahead, the storm both outside and within intensifying. Looking at Emma, heart racing, Jake knew the next step they would take would either solidify their strength or break their spirits. What path were they really on, and who would emerge unscathed in this fight for Maplewood? As the rain poured down, Jake felt invigorated by the energy that pulsed through the crowd. He could see it reflected in the faces around him, each droplet of water washing away the despair that had clung to them for far too long. It was more than just a rally. It was a rebirth. But his thoughts drifted back to Marcus. Even now, the man was gathering himself, trying to regain his footing amid the chaos. Jake could see the anger simmering beneath his veneer of control. There was no escaping the fact that Marcus was dangerous. Maybe more dangerous than he had ever dared to believe. As the chanting continued, Jake looked around. The crowd was soaked but undeterred, unified under a common cause. Emma stood next to him, her hair plastered to her forehead, but her eyes held a fierce light. She wasn't backing down. Neither was he. Think we pushed him too far? She asked, her voice barely audible over the rain and the chants. No, Jake replied, meeting her gaze. I think we need to push harder. We can't let him dangle those boxes over our heads anymore. Emma nodded, determination setting her jaw. But we have to be smart. We need a plan that strips his power away, not just a chance to shout louder. Just then, Lydia stepped into their circle. I heard he's got a meeting set for this evening, she said, a spark of hope igniting in her words. It's just a few blocks away at the old community center. We could confront him there. A ripple of excitement coursed through the crowd as more people caught wind of Lydia's plan. To Jake, the idea of facing Marcus in a smaller, more intimate space felt electric. The walls of the community center had witnessed so many dreams and struggles. It was the perfect backdrop for them to take back what belonged to them. The rain began to lighten, the storm seemingly relenting as if recognizing their spirit. We should prepare, he called out, voice steady and strong. Let us gather our thoughts. What do we want him to hear? What do we demand? People around him began to shout out ideas, forming a rough outline of the demands they would make. We want accountability, Tim yelled. We want a say in how Maplewood is rebuilt. Yes, called out Lydia. This town can't be rebuilt without us. As the energy shifted, Jake felt a rush of clarity. This was not just about reclaiming Maplewood. It was about reclaiming their voices and their futures. They needed a manifesto, something tangible to hand to Marcus, a symbol of their rebellion. After several minutes, they quietly strategized, the atmosphere charged with purpose and collective resolve. Jake felt that same rush of freedom wash over him. Yes, they could take charge of their destiny together. When they were finally ready to leave, the rain had stopped completely. The clouds parted slightly, revealing streaks of sunlight. Jake took a deep breath, the smell of rain-soaked soil filling his lungs. This was their moment. As they made their way to the community center, a mix of exhilaration and anxiety danced in Jake's stomach. Suddenly, he turned to Emma. What if he refuses to listen? What if we're not enough? Emma looked him straight in the eye. We already are enough, Jake. Look at us. We're here, standing together, and that's a start. Her confidence filled him with resolve. With each step, the weight of what lay ahead loomed larger. Would they leave the community center feeling victorious? Or would Marcus's power crush their hopes yet again? And in that moment, Jake realized, today was just the beginning. The path they were on could change everything. As they approached the building, a thought clawed at him unrelentingly. What if Marcus had something up his sleeve? Something that could shatter their rallying cries? The community center's facade stood tall and imposing as Jake and the group approached. It felt like a fortress, the old bricks soaked in stories of fights won and lost. But today, it was a battleground for their fight. They huddled close, hearts racing with a mix of fear and determination. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation. Jake could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on them. They were outnumbered, but the fire in their hearts was unshakable. Marcus was already there, leaning against the wall, flanked by his usual entourage of corporate suits. The smug grin on his face made Jake's blood boil, but he clutched the makeshift manifesto in his hands, reminding himself of the power their united voices could bring. Let us stick to the plan, Lydia whispered, breaking through Jake's haze. We speak one by one. It'll show we're united. Jake nodded, the knot in his stomach tightening. He couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus was ready to counter them. As he scanned the room, he noticed how relaxed Marcus seemed. Did he truly believe he had the upper hand? The thought made Jake's fists clench. Emma stepped forward, her voice steady. We're here to talk about the future of Maplewood. You can't just make decisions without us. Marcus crossed his arms, eyeing her with amusement. And what exactly do you think you can do, Emma? You're merely a handful of disgruntled townsfolk. A murmur spread through the crowd. Jake's heart raced. They had to stand strong. The moment of truth was upon them. One by one, they stepped forward, raising their voices, casting aside fears of rejection. Tim spoke passionately about accountability, while Lydia shared personal stories of how the town had shaped their lives. Each voice added weight to their demands, forming a crescendo against Marcus's condescension. But as they presented their case, Jake noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Marcus's smirk faded, replaced by a steely glare. He pulled a stack of papers from his briefcase and slammed them on the table. "You think this is a negotiation?" he sneered. "I have plans in place that won't change because of a few sentimental stories." The crowd hesitated, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught. Jake exchanged looks with Emma and Lydia, a flash of anxiety sweeping over him. How could they counter this? Suddenly, a voice broke out from the back. "This isn't just about stories. It's about lives." It was an older woman, her resolve echoing against the room's walls, igniting a flicker of courage in Jake's heart. "Exactly," Jake shouted, feeling the shift in momentum. "We're not just voices in the wind. We are this town. You don't get to decide its fate behind closed doors." The crowd erupted in agreement, the force of their unity crashing against Marcus like waves against a rock. Each statement fueled their resistance, and Jake could almost see the doubt creeping into Marcus's eyes. But there was still a challenge ahead. "This may be thrilling for you," Marcus began, regaining his composure, "but the truth is, I hold the keys to your future literally." A hush fell over the room. What did he mean? Jake's heart pounded. If Marcus truly had something sinister in store, they needed to be ready. So many voices had been raised in hope, and now they stood at the brink. "Don't you see?" Marcus continued, a sinister glint in his eyes. "Not a tear will trickle from the ceiling of this center until I say so, and neither will your precious future for Maplewood." Jake's breath quickened as he glared at Marcus, simmering with rage. They had to find the weak spot, the one crack in his armor. And as Jake locked eyes with Emma again, realization crashed into him. What does he really know about the people of Maplewood? The uncertainty gripped Jake, but he wouldn't let fear win. The fight wasn't over yet. Just then, the overhead lights flickered. A shadow glided along the back wall, and Jake's heart dropped. What if Marcus wasn't the only one hiding something? The atmosphere shifted once more as the door creaked open, revealing a face he never expected to see. "Jake," the newcomer whispered, urgency lacing their voice. "We need to talk." Jake's heart raced in disbelief. There, framed in the doorway, was Lydia's friend from the group she'd mentioned, Max, someone who had spent years away and was supposedly in the know. But what he brought was more than just inside information. It was a lifeline. The crowd's attention shifted, and whispers swirled through the room like the clouds from the storm just past. Marcus, sensing the shift, narrowed his eyes. "What's this? Another distraction?" His voice hawked like a predator stalking prey. "Not at all," Max replied, stepping forward with a pulse of confidence. "I'm here to talk about a partnership. Something that could benefit everyone." The tension in the air thickened like a fog, both apprehensive and curious. "Partnership? With who?" Jake shot back, his protective instincts flaring. He was not about to let Marcus twist this into more corporate chess. "With us. With the community. With real people who know what it's like to struggle and what it takes to build something meaningful from the ground up." Everyone held their breath, the weight of the unspoken words hanging above them. Marcus scoffed, trying to steer the narrative back. "And do you think they'll spit on waiting for you while I build something worthwhile?" Jake felt the anger boiling up. "Marcus, you think you can convince us you have any interest in our town? It's just profit to you." The crowd murmured in agreement. The tension escalated, a fragile thread holding everything in line. Max took a deep breath. "Look, I know both sides. I was on the inside, and I can prove to you that what you're creating is built on sand. This isn't just a deal for you to benefit. It's for the community to thrive." Suddenly, the lights flickered again. Was it a power outage or a prelude to something else? The moment felt electric. Jake felt the pulse of the community, their dreams entwined with his own. "Max, what are you saying?" he pressed, needing clarity, needing action. "How can we prove it?" Max held up a piece of paper. "I brought plans. Real plans, strategies that include the community in every step. This isn't just about rebuilding, it's about development that gives back, that creates jobs and sustainability. A hush fell over the room. Could this be the breakthrough they needed? Jake felt a tingle run through him. They could show Marcus that the community's spirit was stronger than greed, something that couldn't be manipulated. That's it, Emma added, stepping beside Jake, her eyes filled with strength. If Marcus wants to talk profits, we'll show him that Maplewood isn't just a number on his ledger. It's our home. Exactly, Lydia echoed. It's more than just rebuilding. It's about investing in the people. Then Max's eyes sparkled with conviction. This isn't just a pitch. It's a movement. We need to show Marcus that together, we hold the power to change the narrative. A roar of agreement erupted. The community was alive, infused with purpose. Together, they were stronger. With renewed energy, Jake stepped back to the forefront, the crowd rallying behind him. We're not going anywhere. If Marcus thinks he can just waltz in and dictate our future, he has another thing coming. Marcus pushed back, desperation creeping into his tone. You're making a terrible mistake. You don't know how things work in the real world. Yes, we do, Tim shouted, voice booming against the walls. We know how it feels to fight for every inch. We know our lives are worth investing in. Suddenly, the crowd began chanting again, fierce and unyielding. Maplewood, Maplewood. The sound echoed through the hall, a clarion call of hope that surged like a tidal wave against Marcus's smirk and doubts. But just then, the door swung open again. This time it wasn't another friend. It was a group of journalists, armed with cameras and eager facades, intrigued by the commotion. Their presence was the spark that could ignite a fire. Jake met their gaze, eyes shining with determination. You're witnessing a movement. Maplewood is ready to rise, and we're not afraid to show the world. The journalists turned their cameras to capture every moment. This was the lifeblood they hoped would turn people's eyes toward the potential that bloomed amidst the chaos. Overwhelmed with momentum, Jake felt something surge inside him, a realization that every word had power. They had it all: community, spirit, action, and now an audience. Let us make our voices heard. Today is just the beginning of what Maplewood can be. With a final rallying cheer, they surged together, hearts beating as one. As the chant echoed around them, and the rain began to ease, Jake knew they were no longer just fighting against Marcus. They were fighting for themselves, for their families, for their future, a unified front against the storm of progress that threatened to erase their home. In that moment, something shifted. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about embracing the fierce love they had for their town and the people within it. They were ready to show the world the true heart of Maplewood. And as the camera lights flashed and filled the room with urgency, Jake realized this was their chance. They not only had the power to shape their destiny, they had each other. Let us take back our town, he shouted, fists raised high, a bright smile breaking across his face as he felt the strength of thousands behind him. Maplewood, Maplewood. The crowd erupted, voices soaring high. The journey had transformed them, steering them toward unity, resilience, and pride. Together they would reclaim the heart of this town, not just against an outsider, but for themselves. This was just the beginning. You need to subscribe now to be part of these incredible journeys. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the stories alive. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this thrilling ending. Together, we're making a difference.